All right, I will call the meeting to order. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance, to the flag, of the United States of America, to the republic, of the nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Welcome, everyone. Feedback there. First, I would apologize for holding a meeting on Halloween Eve for Halloween. In hindsight, maybe we should have rescheduled this, but I'm glad everybody is here at our township meeting. First order of business, we have a presentation, the firefighter's oath of office. Ray?
Thank you, Commissioners. If you'll indulge me just for a quick second, I know we have a lot going on, but quote from Senate Resolution 6, fire and EMS are in crisis right now. Emphasis theirs. Simply put, EMS is woefully lacking in funding, and the number of volunteer firefighters has fallen dramatically over the decades. End quote. This is the first two sentences of a report issued by the Joint Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee in 2017 on the status of fire and EMS service delivery in Pennsylvania. It was also the initial two sentences in the county-wide study of emergency services released in 2020. Fast forward to January of 2022, and the news that Tower Health was closing, Brandywine Hospital and paramedic services were ending. The crisis continues to intensify. The County Township Board of Commissioners, in an effort to address the growing crisis in emergency services, prepared their 2024 budget with funding for EMS and increased funding for fire services. The goal was to begin the process of assuring adequate funding stream for EMS and developing a foundation for a combination career and volunteer fire service in Calhoun Township. In cooperation with the forward-thinking chief of the Thorndale Fire Company, Pat Taylor, the active members of the fire company, staff of the Department of Building and Life Safety, and the part-time career firefighters that we took on as part of this new effort, we have established the beginnings of a combination fire service system that we feel will grow to meet the needs of the community. Tonight, we are here to take part in the next step of that process. The township held their first firefighter civil service exam this summer. The candidates went through physical agility, written testing, and those that passed completed an oral interview process. Out of that process, we hired two firefighters to be presented this evening. The first one is Cameron James Frommuir, known to us as CJ. He comes to us from Kimberton area of Chester County, where he is an active volunteer in the Kimberton Fire Company, and he rose to the rank of lieutenant. He has worked as a firefighter EMT in several agencies across Chester County, providing him with a well-rounded background. CJ has a long family history in the fire service, with family in both volunteer and career positions across Chester County. We are confident that he will carry on the tradition in a way that honors the service and them. During his probationary period, CJ had several responses, including a work and fire assisting Downingtown. Reports indicate that he performed up to our expectation and represented both Calhoun Township and Thorndale Fire Company well. CJ is assigned to A platoon as a full-time career firefighter and has begun his normal shift rotation. With that, I would ask CJ to come up and stand beside me. The second one is Nick Sands. Nick Sands comes to us from the Ridley Township area, where he volunteered with his local fire company. In 2021, Nick enrolled in Westchester University, studying criminal justice, and joined Fame Fire Company of the Westchester Fire Department as a live-in. A live-in is where a student, usually a university student, lives in a firehouse instead of dorms. Their responsibility is to spend, I believe they have to do 40 hours a week, making sure they're there to get the fire apparatus out besides, you know, their educational studies. Nick is entering his final semester at Westchester and plans to relocate to this area. Over the last 3 years, Nick has obtained several rescue certifications above and beyond what we typically require of a firefighter, and he is a member of the Chester County Rescue Task Force team. We anticipate Nick will bring with him technical expertise that will benefit our community immensely. During his probationary period, Nick has responded to several brush fires and motor vehicle accidents, performing up to our expectations thus far. Nick is currently working for us part-time and will fill open shifts on an as-needed basis. With that, I would ask Nick to come up. I would ask the President of the Board of Commissioners, Paul Mullen, to come swear both CJ and Nick in.
If you could raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that I will faithfully discharge my duties as career firefighter for the Township of Calne, according to the best of my ability, with loyalty and fidelity. So help me God. Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations. No. No photo op with Ray?
Yes.
Yeah,
He.
take some time. Well, thank you.
I'd actually ask the chief.
Right. Yes. Good.
You guys get a
Oh, maybe it is. Yeah. Okay, good. I haven't opened it.
That's all. It's
Okay.
no information.
Have a great evening, gentlemen. Thank you.
Here.
All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Next on the agenda, citizens to be heard for agenda items. Do we have any here in the township building? Do not see any hands raised at this time. Any in Zoom? I'm moving right along. We have a full plate for this evening. So let's hunker down. Township solicitor, Ms. Camp, who do we have?
Good evening. The first matter for you to consider is a motion to grant final land development approval for a final subdivision and land development application of 4102 Associates LLC. The property is at 4060 Edges Mill Road. It's both a development as well as a reverse subdivision. So there's two different tax parcels. It's parcel 39-1-114.1 and 39-1-114. Chris Daly is here from Hal Engineering. If there are any civil engineering questions, the board should be familiar with this application. The property is a 6.93 acre parcel located north of the Downingtown Coatesville bypass, east of Bonsville Road, and south of Edges Mill Road. The applicant also owns the adjacent 6.025 parcel, which has an address of 4102 Edges Mill Road. The applicant seeks to develop the property at 4060 Edges Mill with a one-story flex space building, 41,000 square feet, 57 off-street parking spaces, sidewalks, stormwater management facilities, and other site improvements. They intend to merge the two parcels that they own, so there'll be a consolidated 12.95 acre parcel. They'll utilize a shared driveway. The property is in the C2 Regional Commercial District. The board saw this application first at the conditional use stage and granted conditional use approval for a flex space in December of 2022. We then granted preliminary land development approval in January of 2024. Your consultants have reviewed the final plan, and the latest review letters are set forth in the draft motion. The draft motion would grant final approval of the plan subject to the conditions that are listed, many of which are carryovers. In fact, I think all are carryovers from the preliminary plan. The only thing that's new is the consultant letters are updated. So the dates of those letters are updated. Otherwise, everything is exactly as you've seen. No additional issues came up during the final process. So pretty straightforward. Again, any questions if you have on the motion, I can answer the legal questions potentially, and Chris can answer the engineering ones.
Commissioners, any comments, questions?
No.
None at this time?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to thank the applicant for working with us so openly, working with the Historical Commission and making sure that the historical integrity of Edges Mill Road is maintained to the best of our abilities. So thank you.
That's good to hear. Yeah. If you made it through Historical Commission, we have nothing, nothing to add to that. So, residents here in the township, any questions, comments? None at this time. No hands raised. Any in Zoom? Okay. He has a comment? Yes. Ryan, welcome.
Mark, hello. This is Ryan Edgington, president of Allfill, the applicant. Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate your comments, and it was a pleasure to work with you guys. And we'll see this project through the way you guys intend for it to go.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. No other comments? We can easy entertain a motion to approve the final subdivision and land development app for Allfill.
So moved.
Moved.
And-
Moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tindaro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, Ms. Camp.
Second matter is a zoning amendment that we talked about at a prior meeting, and it would amend various sections of your zoning ordinance to define various uses that potentially are already in the township or could come into the township in the future. Your planning commission did review this. We call it the cannabinoid use ordinance because it deals with establishments that in the future or now either sell unregulated cannabinoid substances or regulated cannabinoid substances. And it identifies some other uses, a hookah bar. I think those are the only ones. Oh, and a tobacco store, tobacco store, smoke shop, which right now, those uses, if we didn't have this ordinance, they would just be viewed as a retail establishment and they would be allowed in your C1 and your TV1 district. So I think the board's thought was, let's try to get ahead of this and put these uses in the industrial district. So we have definitions. We allow the uses in the industrial district by conditional use. We establish what the minimum lot area, lot width, front yard, side yard, rear yard, maximum height of the buildings. And then for each of the uses, we have a separate section that identifies specific standards such as separation distance requirements, etc. This has been reviewed by your planning commission. They did have some comments. I think some of them, I was able to speak to Adam sort of off the record. I think he's comfortable without addressing any of those comments at this point in time and sending this to the county planning commission and seeing if they have any additional comments or concerns. So at this point, it's just if the board has any other questions or thoughts on the ordinance, and if you're happy with it as it's drafted, it would be an authorization to send it to the county planning for review.
Commissioners, any other comments? Changes needed?
think we have smoked out most of the questions.
I just wanted to ask, excuse me, I just wanted to ask, are we pretty much lined up like consistent with what the county is projecting for these type of ordinances? Or can we independently just declare what we want to do as a township?
Yeah, Jane, that is one of the most powerful things that you as a board can do. You get to legislate where you'd like to see, how you want to define these uses and what districts you'd like to see them in. So that is definitely a municipal power. And you
Okay.
as the legislators of the ordinance get to do that. So I think this is one of the more forward thinking ordinances, I would say. And I am curious to see what the planning commission has to say, but I think that it's something that, yeah, you have within your authority and power to do this.
All right, thank you.
Comments? All right. Reach out to the residents here in the township. Any hands raised? None at this time. Any in Zoom?
Just-
Yes.
I had a question, but I can't find where my question was. Sorry.
If it's how to pronounce anything,
Cannabinoid.
the terminology is.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that nothing was watered down from where it had come from.
Anything. Saw it.
Excellent.
Except that we made all the separation distance same, 500.
Excellent.
There's a typo in one, I had 5,000. I thought today, 500. We wanted it to be consistent across the board.
Excellent. No, I appreciate it, Kristen.
The comments? It's Halloween. All right, entertain a motion to send this draft to Chester County Planning Commission.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Evans. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did we lose Jane?
Yeah, I'm back. Yes, I,
Oh, okay. Did I get an aye from you?
She said
Yes, she said
Yes.
aye.
Yes.
Okay. All
my
right.
phone was
motion-
going in and out. I'm sorry. I'm in a very peculiar area.
No problem there, Jane. I'm glad you're chiming in. Motion passes 5-0. All right, next, engineering. Ms. Camp, you're sticking around?
Sure, I'm going to stick around for this. I've been involved with this, working with Ray, Scott Gill, and Russ. And I do want the board to consider the resolution first, and I'll explain why. So I think it was last year, we had temporary construction easements. There is a retaining wall on Geo Carlson Boulevard that is deteriorating and failing, and we came to the board and asked you to execute and approve temporary construction easements. At this point in time, and Ray, I don't know, want to jump in or Russ wants to jump in. I think it's to the point where it's in serious need of repair quick. We can't wait. There's a concern that if it fails more, then the road will have to be closed. So they've been involved. The engineering has been involved in putting together design specifications for a new retaining wall. That necessitates 2 permanent easements on properties that are located at 3105 Zinn Road, as well as, let me find the other address, 3105 and 3025 and 3035 Zinn Road. So we approached these property owners and requested that they execute a permanent easement. The property owner where the daycare is located, which is 3025 and 3035, that property owner's name is HWG Thorndale LLC. They have indicated that they are willing to grant the easement in the terms that I sent to them. The other property owner at 3105 Zinn Road, and that property has changed hands since you received the temporary easement. So now it's in a new ownership, and the name is 319 Chestnut Street LLC. They are willing to grant the easement, but they want to be paid consideration for it. We did retain William Wood Company to do an appraisal. The appraisal came back at $4,175. The property owner has rejected that as the offer of compensation for the easement. So I explained to them that there's some urgency to this matter, and I asked them if they would consider signing the easement in lieu of condemnation, because the board has the power, if you needed to exercise condemnation for the easement. And if so, they would sign the easement now, but they would reserve the right after they obtain their own appraisal to, if we can't negotiate based on the two appraisals and come to an agreement on the just compensation to pay them, then at that point in time, they could petition for a board review. So they're comfortable with that process. I've been involved in that process before. That is a legal way to go about this. It gets you what you need as far as the property interest to build the new retaining wall as soon as you need to, but it preserves the right for both parties to continue to have a dialogue about what the just compensation is. So in order for it to be treated as a deed or an easement in lieu of condemnation, you have to pass a resolution basically authorizing that if you needed to go, if you couldn't come to an agreement, that you would be willing to condemn. And it's not condemning the property, it's condemning an easement. It's 2,319 square feet of the property at 3105. So I prepared a resolution that explains the facts of the project, explains why it's necessary that you get this property in order to build the wall. And I will mention that the wall today is already on the property. It just probably was not properly documented when the road went in. So it's not like you're building a new wall, but there is a wall there now, and that wall is failing. So and we explained this to the property owner. Russ can also explain it's in areas, there's a sanitary sewer easement. So it's already burdened by an easement. It's also in an area of floodplain, and it's an area that they can't build because it's in setbacks that they have to keep off of the road. So it's really not, I don't want to say any property is valueless, because it's not. There's value to it, and they paid good money for it. I don't want to diminish that. But as far as, we feel that the appraisal is probably a fair price, but they have their own right to go ahead and get, their own appraisal done. So what I would ask, if you're comfortable, is to pass the resolution that would authorize condemnation or even negotiation in lieu of condemnation. And once that's passed, the next two items are to execute or to approve executing the two easement agreements that we have sent to the property owners. I don't have them back yet, but I do have indication that they will both be signing them.
All right, commissioners, comments, questions? Ross,
Yeah,
you want to chime in?
Sure. Yeah, I think just to provide a visual, was thinking I would share a few exhibits from those easement agreements that are to be signed. So this is the property that has the dentist office, and so the easement area that we're looking to have is the hatched area here, and you can see the proposed wall is the darker gray that extends through most of that area. And then, as Kristen mentioned, the property is already encumbered with a few features, such as the sanitary sewer main, and which has an easement. And then this entire area is within the floodplain. So there's really no capability to actually build any sort of occupied spaces down here where the easement would fall. And similarly, on the property that is the daycare, it also is just there right along the roadway. Essentially, it's kind of a wooded area in the floodplain as well.
Thank you, Ross. Questions?
Just procedurally, Kristen, so we need to approve 2.2, 2.3, and 3.3 on our
So
agenda.
you need to approve, let's see. Where was the road?
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I was trying to put that together myself.
Okay, 3.3, it's resolution 2024-24. That's the first action. And then going back up under 2.2 and 2.
Okay.
I think before we do 2.3, which is the award of the wall contract, I think I should provide some more background on that. So would this be an appropriate time to do that?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2.2 is both easements. I apologize. It's just 2.2. Why don't can we do these first, or do you want to hear about the
Let's do the easements.
the resolution?
Curious to what Ross has got to say.
first? Oh, okay.
Ross, he always enlightens us. Ross, go ahead.
Sure.
Fill us
Okay.
in.
Sure. So just to provide a reminder, the location of the wall is on the south side of Geo Carlson Boulevard. It's about 500 feet west of the intersection with North Bailey Road. And then just to provide a few background photos, this is the wall. And then as you can see, the wall is leaning outward significantly. So that's what we're worried about. You know, ordinarily the wall should be leaning a little bit the other way, and now it's leaning out. So that's the problem. And we've prepared retaining wall design drawings. So this is kind of a as if you were standing at the bottom of the grade looking at the wall. So a wall profile, just to give you a sense of what's being built. And that is it's almost 400 feet long, like 367, and it's like around 8 feet high or so for most of it. So a pretty significant wall. And so we reached out to a contractor who the township is familiar with and has built quite a few retaining walls within the township area. And we did get a bid from them. So that's Pickering Valley Landscape. And so they basically sort of an all-inclusive of the wall construction and the erosion and sediment controls and road restoration that goes with it to do this whole construction process. Their proposed price was just a little bit over $592,000. So our intention was to request authorization to award the contract to Pickering Valley Landscape for up to $593,000. And we think that there could be some possibility to negotiate that price downward a little bit, or at least to change some items to a contingency where it only gets done if it has to. So one example of that would be the road restoration. Like if there's really not much damage to the road at all from the construction process, then we wouldn't need to repave it or incur those costs. So but just in terms of keeping this process moving, we'd like to request authorization to award that contract up to $593,000.
Thank you, Ross. Before the motions, why don't we reach out to residents? Any comments, questions here in the township? See none at this time. Any in Zoom? First order of business would be 3.3. Okay. Entertain the motion to approve resolution 2024-24 authorizing the acquisition of a retaining wall easement located at 3105 Zinn Road. Purchase or condemnation for the purpose of installing a new retaining wall on Geo Carlson.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Young. Favor? Say aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Next would be for 3025 and 3035 Zinn Road. So entertain a motion to approve easements for the HWG Thorndale LLC located at 3025 and 3035 Zinn Road.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Tindaro, second by Commissioner Kennedy. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's 5-0.
So that, and you also, there is an easement agreement, the easement agreement in lieu of condemnation for the 3105 property. It's also identical to the easement for the 3025. So I'd want you to,
Okay. As Ms. Camp had stated, for which project or for which?
so the first,
3105.
yeah, you had to do the resolution so that the parties have the right to go to the board of review if we can't agree upon compensation.
Mhm.
But we actually have the easement agreement ready for you to execute that they said that they'll sign. Just the compensation part that we're not. We'll fill in that number once we reach. that
So
agreement.
basically 2.2, but just insert
Another, yes. the other property.
3105.
Yep, 3105.
Okay.
Yeah.
Insert the purchase or condemnation.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tindaro. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. To add that, and then we still have 2.3, the awarding to Pickering Valley Landscape. Not to exceed figure of $593,000. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Evans. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, and I do know Ross will save us a couple bucks somehow, some way, but he will.
All right.
Thank you, Ross.
Sure, thank you. And I think, Kristen, are you complete with your section? Would I continue with the road program, or do you have anything else?
I'm done. Thank you, Ross.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Okay, so the other order of business for the engineering matters would be for the 2024 road program. So the contractor recently completed the lion's share of the work. So the roads have all been milled and repaved, and they've submitted their payment application number 1. So that would be for $303,195.26. We have no objection to that, and they have just a little bit more work to do on Monday to finish one of the bituminous curbs that wasn't quite complete, and then either at the next meeting or the following, we would expect their final application for payment and complete to the full completion of the project. So for tonight, we would be requesting the authorization for the payment to the contractor Long's Asphalt for their payment application number 1, and that amount is $303,195.26.
All right, commissioners, any comments, questions? At this time, residents here in the township building? None? No hands raised, any in Zoom? Pretty simple. All right. Entertain a motion to authorize payment number 1 in the amount so said.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Tindaro, second by Commissioner Kennedy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. And they'll be back for, how much is that? 42,000?
Yes, yeah, the balance remaining is almost 43,000, and we would expect that either at the next meeting or the following one.
Perfect.
Right.
So much. Anything else for Ross?
Ross, you're the best. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Did you do it for Ross? Or are you going to hang out for a bit?
Yes, I'll be here just a little bit longer in case there's any questions on some of the other related matters.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we understand if you have to get up and answer the door.
Okay.
So,
Got it. Thanks. Yep.
all right. Don, what's next?
All right, good evening, commissioners. A couple additional items on the ordinances and resolution. First item 3.1, it's resolution 2024-22 Green Region Grant. This is a grant opportunity offered through PICO and the Natural Lands Trust. It's an annual grant fund for projects related to sustainability, environmental, energy savings, and the like. I do want to turn over some of the specifics of this grant to Abby, who worked on completing that application. A component of the application is, of course, a resolution from the board authorizing the grant funds.
So we have been up till this point converting our meadow 1 acre at a time, which is working well so far. But this seemed like a good fit for the PICO Green Region Grant. So we thought, hey, if we can do it all at once, it's a remaining 5 acres. And we had budgeted a little over $1,000 per acre. So what we're applying for is to convert the rest of the 5 acres and then also add a lot of improvements. So some more plantings, some more benches, down one's gazebo. So we will have some money to update the parking lot, add some signage, things like that. So we applied for $10,000 and it has a % match. So that's what we're asking you to approve.
We say no. Just can't.
No.
Commissioners, any comments?
No.
Nothing. All right. Residents here in the township building. Comments, questions? None at this time. Any in Zoom? This is entertain a motion to approve township staff to submit the application for $5,000, the PICO Green Region Open Space Program Grant.
So moved.
So second.
Second.
All right, jump on that. Moved by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Evans. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Worthy cause. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Next on the agenda, 3.2, resolution 2024-23. This is a curbside municipal waste and recycling materials collection contract. Goes without saying, a lot of work went into preparing the bid documentation and going over those bids when they were received. Director Gill from the Count Township Municipal Authority spent a significant amount of time working on this. So we received 4 bids for this year's contract. This was a 3-year contract with the 2-year optional years attached. The low bid was received by our current provider, AJ Blazinski. There was no change to service in this contract proposed, and the amount came in at a good number. It was $233 and 40 cents per unit per year. So the low contract, the recommendation from staff would be to accept the low contract for the at least 3-year period with the 2 optional years at the expiry of that 3 years.
I'm so excited about this contract. I mean, I remember when we got, in the COVID era, when we got that, you know what I mean? And to see things kind of falling back into line, and that we have a shot for 5 years at this price. I mean, that's 3 years and then we can re-up for 2 years. Same. But I think that's,
Yes.
said.
And
Jane?
it's so great. I was just gonna say that we don't have to put any new increases, if I'm correct, for our residents this year. So that's a great bonus.
All right. I told Scott I would call on him because this is all
Uh-oh.
Scott. So if he's
Okay.
online, let's bring him up. This is his moment.
yay, Scott,
Scott, are you there?
he's there.
Having technical issues.
Good evening, Commissioner. Hold on, let me try
Scott,
to. Good evening.
good evening.
Even-
Tell us what you went through to make sure that this happens for our township.
It's one of the toughest contracts, or should I say bid docs we put together. Haulers, trash hauler in the trash business, it's pretty competitive business. You pull your hair out a lot with the questions that are always answered or
Yeah.
requested, and but yeah, I think it's a win-win. AJ, I believe, has a representative here if the board has any questions for them. Also, his name's Andrew, Andrew Casey. And but yeah, we're really excited. We were nervous. We thought we were going to get a massive increase in our haulers cost, and basically this has pretty much stabilized the budget. So yeah, it's a
Great.
win-win. Yeah, I think it's a win-win.
Thank you for everything that you did with this, Scott. I really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since we have the representative here, Andrew, did you want to say a few words?
If you
Come on up to the mic. Yeah, no.
Sure, love having you as a customer, Scott, and just keeping our township clean, continue this relationship.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you.
And I know there's hiccups here and there, but Scott always tells me that you guys are on top of it. You take care of it, and we appreciate that. Right. And all I have to say is when I found out about this price, I just said, start that car. If anybody understands that joke, that's great. Okay. Old IKEA. All right.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry. I got to use that. All right, Andrew, thank you so much. All right. Any other comments? Don, you look like you're about to say something.
just Scott worked very hard on this, and it reflects in the price.
Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, with no comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to award a contract to AJ Blazinski.
So moved.
So moved. Moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tindaro. All in favor, say aye.
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 And motion passes 5-0. So we have you for 3 years and possibly 2 additional.
Good.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Sure, no problem. Thanks again.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep, and we'll get the paperwork out to him. He has to get a couple documents back to us, but they're pretty good at returning that stuff. So, but yep, we look forward to beginning January 1st with them.
Excellent.
Yep.
Start the car.
Well,
All right.
be here before you now.
Next on the agenda, Township Manager.
Okay.
We have Ingleside Golf Course, new tractor.
Yes.
Speak to me.
Thank you very much. Yes, I believe Nicole is here this evening. Then can correct any or add to anything that I may
Yay.
leave out. But I know everyone over at the golf course, and especially Cole Shannon's working very hard to keep the maintenance of the golf club to the degree it needs to be. And of course, one of the biggest functions is mowing the lawns, and we've had some difficulties with tractors and lawnmowers that have broken down or been received that were not operational. This would be the purchase of a mower for harder to reach areas of the course, around bunkers, around trees, and the like. Nicole submitted it is a CoStar's approved vendor, Eagle Power Turf and Tractor, and the purchase price for this vehicle is $22,379. We have been lucky in some ways with it being as dry as it is right now, but we're hoping for some rain because a little water helps. For night.
Commissioners' comments, questions on this?
We need it. I'm all for it. The funds are coming from for this one.
The golf
We-
budget.
We never received the original one we ordered. Well, we did receive it, then it went back to the shop several times. We had a loaner up until recently. They finally took back their loaner.
Oh, excellent.
So, she's been working with whatever she has.
Oh, I know. I saw you
Susan.
out there. Really. You had the little fake teeth. You were.
Excuse me. And what's the turnaround time for this? Oh. Cole is approaching.
They have this mower in stock, and that's one of the
Yay.
reasons I selected it.
Oh, excellent.
Great.
Shouldn't be more than a couple weeks before it arrives.
Yay.
By that time, we might not be mowing, but
Hmm.
at this rate, it's going to be 80 degrees next week again, so we
Ugh.
might be mowing. If
You-
it never rains again, we'll never mow again. But I hope it rains so we can mow with this machine.
Little bit.
Perfect.
You.
If you're curious, it's a 5-year warranty,
Good.
or 1,500 hours.
You.
Looking forward to finally having our own workable mower.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Nicole.
Welcome.
Excuse me. All right. Well, any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Any questions from residents? None here in the township building, any in Zoom? Not at this time. All right, entertain a motion to, am I here? Approve it's an X-Mark laser diesel tractor in the amount of $22,379 for the golf course.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner, you guys are quick. Moved by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Evans. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. In
Excellent.
a couple of weeks. You could just drive it around on the course. You don't even have to
Yeah.
cut grass. Just show it off. All right, yes, next on the agenda, the firefighter tax credit.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. This is an update on the discussion that we've had regarding this issue several times earlier in the year. As you may recall, the county instituted a volunteer firefighter tax credit. This is a tax credit at the county level for taxes paid for individuals that volunteer at local fire departments and respond to a set number of calls. Municipalities do have the option of enacting a similar policy at the local level, and there has been some support in doing so. We're moving forward with the relevant documentation in order to have that in place by the end of the year. Really just want to get final clarification rather than the township staff receiving and evaluating the number of calls. We would simply like permission in the language to accept documentation demonstrating that the county has approved the tax credit and, done the calculations. The individuals have met that threshold in order to apply for and receive the tax credit.
Makes sense. Let the county do
Yeah.
the homework.
Yep.
Our volunteers reap the rewards. Commissioners, comments?
Great program.
I think it's an excellent program. This is for the volunteers. I mean, they're putting in their time, dedication to our township.
Mhm.
It's the least that we can do. Residents here in the township building, any comments? We do have some folks here. Patrick.
I'd be remiss if I didn't, first, Patrick Taylor, 406 Baker Lane. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you on behalf of the organization, volunteers. I mean, obviously the county enacting it and taking a step forward, the county commissioners really taking it seriously. So we really do appreciate it. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick. Any comments from Zoom? End of this time? Yeah, this was actually brought up in one of the last Cato meetings. Several other townships jumped on board with this idea. So I think it's due time. Well, with that said. Oh, it's just a discussion?
Discussion for
With-
this meeting. And we
I
will
was so excited just to
enact
get,
that
yeah,
very-
just to
in the very
sign
near
something.
future.
Yeah. All right, let's get it on the next agenda.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, 4.3, this is the annual Stratton Davis Farm agricultural lease. This is a lease with farmer who plants crops, maintaining the agricultural purpose of that site. There's two changes in the contract this year. One being that Mr. Smoker reached out. Last year, there was a degree of erosion over the winter season on various areas of the farmland, and he was requesting permission to plant a ground crop over the winter. If you drive by currently, you can see some growth happening despite the rain, lack of rain. That will go a long way in helping to hold the earth in place and the event we do eventually have rain. It is a best management practice from an agricultural use in order to prevent sediment runoff and the like. And then the other change was a 10-foot path around the perimeter, so bringing the perimeter of his the field essentially in by 10 feet. We would then start the process to grade that. And obviously, it's been tilled over the course of many years. We'd have to grade that to a smooth capacity, plant some seed or allow seed to grow, grass to grow, and then for a future walking trail around that property. He was very supportive of those changes. I worked with Solicitor Camp on the language, and the updated contract is in your packet for consideration. If there's no changes, I will reach out and get that contract signed, and it would be on presumably on the next board meeting for official adoption.
As far as the cost that he's paying, is it similar to last year? I didn't get a chance to compare it.
We spoke about that due to the changes, and I did go on to USDA and look at the cost per acre for various crops. Primarily, he is planting corn and soybean on the site, and then looking at what the expected revenue would be due to the reduction of the acreage. If it's acceptable with the board, we're selecting to maintain that cost. This year, there was a decrease in the expected price of corn and soy next year, based on the federal board. Of course, we can look at that on an annual basis, and I'd be more than happy. I believe I provided those cost figures or estimates for review. But we can certainly discuss that for this year, based on the changes in him being amenable to a reduction in the total acreage being farmed, felt it was appropriate to leave at the current state.
Deal maker. I like that.
And two payments equaling what, a little over 31,000. Is that what I read for the year? Okay. Going towards paying off the barn roof. Right, commissioners, any comments, questions?
No, it's just good that he's willing to stay on board, even with some of the requests that we're asking, to have this trailway put in. And he's not going anywhere, so that's a bonus.
It was a very good conversation with the farmer, and he appreciates the partnership.
That's good. And the fact that we'll have a sort of a walking trail around the perimeter of
Yeah.
the property.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a start.
It'll take some time,
Awesome.
but we'll
Yeah.
have that established. Yes.
No further questions from commissioners? Anyone here in the township building? None at this time. Any in Zoom? Great. Entertain a motion to
So
Approve.
moved.
Second.
move by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tindaro. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Have a Bondsville Road Apartment discussion.
Thank you, commissioners. This will take just a moment of introduction. As you know, there's a proposed project that was approved by prior boards along Bondsville Road. This would be for a senior affordable housing along Bondsville Road. The applicant or developer reached out and spoke after the last meeting, where conditional use was extended for a period of a year, and the land development plan. There was a request made by the commissioners to go back and look at what ordinances may have been adopted since that was last approved, primarily stormwater management ordinances. In that discussion, and through my experience in other communities, we've looked at some other sites. There's obviously some significant challenges that came out during the preliminary discussions about this project, from stormwater, traffic, and the like, that the board's planning commission and the commissioners have raised, just to see if there was anywhere else of township owned property that would be more suitable perhaps for development of this type. We did look, and I know spent significant time trying to evaluate township owned property. Really could not find anything that would fit directly due to wetlands area, floodplain, steep slopes. It was a challenge. Notified the developer that we were not able to locate anything, but following that discussion, Mr. Ritzman, who is the developer, came forward and had a proposal to swap the land on Bondsville for the current proposal with township-owned land up by the Spack and Davis farm. This would be the section of the southern side of Kings Highway. There's 30 acres that the township does own. There's a cell tower on that site currently. That land, and we did the research, and it was purchased using taxpayer funds rather than open space grant funding. So the north side of the Kings Highway was used. The county funding was used for that purchase, which is restricted. This was township. So it is feasible that some sort of agreement could be reached. Obviously, any sort of change of this sort needs to be held in the public setting. Wanted to make sure that we are transparent about the process. So Mr. Ritzman is here tonight to present proposed development at that site, which would be in exchange for land that's about 3.4 acres on Bondsville Road. And at that, unless there's any questions, we can allow Mr. Ritzman to present.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you so very much for taking the time, and happy Halloween.
Thank you.
It's Halloween.
Yeah, I know. So I did have pretty extensive conversations with staff regarding this project and the property that I currently own. And there are a lot of really big upsides if you guys do decide to take this path. One of which would be to sewer the north side of the township. Currently, there's no public sewer and water. Take it from this property all the way down to approximately Turkey Hill, Bondsville Road. That's a very expensive process for the township to do. Multiple reasons why you would have to do it through prevailing wage process, whereas I would not have to do that. So there would be savings there, and it would also be a big benefit, I believe, to the township to offer the public water. Also, we would please a lot of the folks that live in the township by not pursuing project that I currently own, Bondsville Road. And I'm okay with that. The meetings have been a little bit contentious, as we all know, and I prefer to be more of the hero than the villain in the township, if there's any possible way. We would also be able to possibly like reforest the current property that I have, or do something that the township would like us to do with it, because currently it's just obviously a piece of ground that has fill dirt, subsoil on it. We could reforest it. We could do whatever it is that the township would like us to do on that property as well. I proposed some townhouses, conversations with the staff, because we feel that would fit more in that setting. And I guess at this point in time, I would like to hear your comments on whether or not you think this is a feasible process. Now, I will say that timing is of the issue, because I have, I think 2 or 3 of my current permits that I have in process, my MPDS, my HOP, I think another, a joint permit on the bridge, are all going to sunset at the end of this year. Now, I can extend them, but it's a pretty extensive process financially and time-wise. And I really didn't want to do that if we could talk and get this moving. So I thought that maybe I would present this to you folks and see what you had to say.
Thank you, Scott.
I think
Commissioners?
it's a win-win. I really do.
Commissioners, any comments? Just to put this in perspective, this is the parking lot that we use across from Spackman Farm.
Yes, sir.
The sewer and water you're speaking of would actually come all the way up Bondsville from that Turkey Hill, all the way up to basically Spackman Farm.
Yes, sir. I mean, we could actually take it towards King's Grant, but I don't think that would serve as many folks and help the township as much if we took it that way, took it down Bondsville or King Pie Way and then down Bondsville. I used to own a property across the street from the Beaver Creek, and that property never had proper sewer on it. I think it's a cesspool. A lot of the properties along that track have cesspools or somewhat failing septic systems currently. I mean, I think it would be a public service actually to do something along that route.
It's an interesting proposal. It's 30 acres for 3.5.
I would say that the 3.5 acres that I have much grander density
Yeah.
than the 30
Oh, yeah.
acres talking about.
And I don't believe it would be the full 30 acres.
No, it would not be the full 30 acres at all. There would be, I think it would be a little bit, approximately half of that, a little bit more maybe. All of the fields, the planted fields would stay the same. It's just kind of the area that you're using as a quasi natural dump site, for lack of a better term.
Huggins said it's a stockpile site, not.
I'm sorry. Well, that's why I said, come on. It's a stockpile. It's natural product.
How many townhomes are you thinking about for there?
I believe we have on this particular plan.
Really?
And you have to remember the amount of money that I have into my current property. It's exponential. Then I'm going to be providing the funding and the actual operating of putting the public water and sewer in.
Oh, yeah, no, it's,
all
I
the way
mean,
down
it's
there.
a,
That's a huge number.
yeah.
And I heard you speak about the Speakman Farm, and I know that's near and dear to your hearts. And as some of you know, I'm a preservationist, and I live in an old historic house. And Miss Camp knows that I do work in other townships on other projects. I could absolutely help out in various ways as well. I mean, that would be a progressive conversation.
Does it have to be so large? That's a nice chunk of land there and just
I'm sure we
the
can.
view from Spackman Farm, you don't want to be looking at other homes. You want to be in your own little world out there. I think, you know, with that park, that's what we're trying to come up with.
Well, I'm sure that.
And
this is our
I know
first-
it's all about money because you need to make sure you have a project that's going to be able to cover all your costs and whatnot.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
And absolutely. I mean, I was taught as a kid, pigs eat and hogs get slaughtered, and I don't want to get slaughtered, but we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start here, but then also to your point, and I've done this on other projects, and I have a landscaping company, and we do it all the time where we can build like landscape buffers, whereas you wouldn't see this section, which would be section closest.
I believe.
Yeah. It's flipped around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Right.
yeah,
The
because the
Oh,
intro,
sorry, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
fault.
there you go.
Landscape that. Fine. And again, this. My biggest.
Yeah.
Find out not viable option. Because I have a property that's currently there. Y'all don't want to go back into that, but I don't imagine.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be a pig, but I also understand that there's a lot of numbers involved. What I would only ask is that we can move the process a little quicker. Have been talking. I know it's tough, and Don is great, communicative with me. And I know he's going to be careful in how he speaks to everybody. So it's one of these processes where I don't want to twist too long, and then I'm running uphill.
Yeah. Completely understand.
So I think you've seen how I exhibit that I will work with the township, and Ms. Camp knows that. I've done that on other projects, other townships. My thing is, I'd much rather come in here with a spirit of cooperation than butting heads. And I really truly believe that it'd be a great thing for that northern part of the township.
I think, you know, that, you know, for me, the prospect of having sewer and water and potentially a access road in the Spackman Farm, Fisherville, things like this. Same time, it's big, it's a lot of townhomes there, a lot of light pollution. And I really appreciate what you're doing here. I mean, it's an intriguing idea. I just, you know, I'm thinking about how, there's a couple I've spoken to that, you know, they like to go over to that spot in July and August in the middle of the night where they're not supposed to be there and watch all the fireflies over the Spackman Farm. And I was recently driving back at a rehearsal, one of the older buildings just past Spackman Farm. Beautiful fox. It's like standing in the middle of the road, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, everything, all these living things have a place here. This is something I'd have to think long and hard.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I just
Oh yeah, no,
would like to have a
Oh,
direction
yeah.
because I have to make a decision.
I-
And I really do think this is once in a lifetime opportunity to do something there. And again, it doesn't need to be 108. You know, I don't know exactly. I mean, we haven't dove into the exact numbers on what it's going to cost
right.
to do everything, but we kind of went on the higher end, knowing that that you can't negotiate
Yeah,
you know, the other way.
Right. Right. Saying that.
But it also can't be, you know, 20. I'd be giving up much more current property.
You wouldn't be able to cover that sewer.
Yeah.
cover the sewer and also recoup some of the money that I've spent on Bondsville apartment.
Right. And we haven't forgotten.
No,
We are.
No, yeah,
So yeah.
It's a tough position. for all.
Yeah, no, we're just, and for the residents that are online here, how this idea came about is the fact that the Bondsville apartments, the idea of trying to put apartments behind these homes that have a pool right across from Thorndale Inn, it's difficult. It truly is. So I think our township manager was just trying to work out another idea of a land swap and have Mr. Risbin develop somewhere else in the township and then leave that property alone. This is where that idea came from. I didn't know it was going to end up here, this beautiful area, but I think we have looked at other locations that just didn't pan out, either flood zones that you just can't build anyway, or
We went through, there was a half a dozen properties that the township does own. A lot of them are in the floodplain for reasons of mitigating flooding in the township or on steep slopes, things of that sort. There really just wasn't a good fit that we could identify, but we did some due diligence attempting to see if there was a potential.
and if I understand correctly, you came up with this idea for this piece of land?
I did. I
Okay.
did. I mean, I agree, sir. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I think it's got really nice access to 30 bypass. It's not like you have to drive all through the whole township. And again, to be honest with you, but my prior property that I owned, where I used to own Earth Care on the corner of Bondsville Road, there's currently a sewer system that opens up when it rains too hard, and have Beaver Creek there, and then you have a lot of other property that just really should be updated when it comes to the public water and public sewer. And I do believe it's a win. We need housing. Every single ad you see.
Can I open it up to residents? We're done. Yeah. Question. Anyone here in the township building? Comments? Or this time? Did see some action on the screen. Who do we have? Welcome, Mark. Hello?
Mark.
You there? We hear nothing on this side. Anything? No? You're not muted on our side.
Yeah, you're right at the top there, Mark.
Anything?
How about
Oh,
now?
here he is.
Oh, hey, there you go, Mark.
You did it.
Welcome.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear us? That might be the other question. Can you hear us, Mark?
I'm getting
Do
some
not believe.
text that people cannot hear us. Mark, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now, Mark?
Yes, we hear you.
Can you hear us? Can you type in the chat? No?
And everything's breaking up now on the sound end. People are sending me texts.
Said you had a second person. You want to try that?
How about now? Does that work?
Yes. We can hear you, Mark. Can you hear us?
Yes. Sorry, that took a little bit of technical assistance there.
Okay.
I think it was on our end. You're good.
Well, thank you for your patience. I really appreciate that. So, just to identify myself as Mark DeYoung, 20 Beaver Run Road. And I just want to say maybe 108 apartments or 108 townhouses is a little high. But from what I'm hearing from the applicant and what he can do with the landscaping berms to block the view from Speckman Farm, it sounds like a good process to me because we get water, sewer out of that, and he's picking up all that cost. I'm sure he's going to pick up the sidewalks and everything else. So we'll have everything that we want in each development that comes along. And, as much as, everybody likes historic places, I think there's room there that we can't let Spackman Farm rule the township. And that's where I kind of draw my own line. There's a lot of barns. My son just got married in one in Maryland, a beautiful place. I mean, they're all over the place. So, it can't be the be all end all to make our decisions. Our decisions have to be made with our heads, not with our hearts. And I think when you throw Spackman Farm in there and worry about sight lines, you're doing it with your heart and not with your head. So I think what he said about putting the berms in so that you couldn't see, and if the applicant could please follow up on that to give us maybe a little more information on that, I think that would be helpful. But it's right now it's land that's not being used and can be put to a good purpose, and we get the sewer and the water out of it. I mean, I think he's stepping over bound and giving up another property. I think he's actually made a great presentation, other than 108 townhouses. I don't think there's room enough for that many, but maybe somewhere at a lower number. I don't know, 70 or something like that, whatever works.
Okay.
And pleases people.
Good point.
But, I think that makes sense. And we got to look at things, like I said, with Spackman Farm with our, you put it with your heart, but the township is a business. It's taxpayer funded, and it's got to be run as a business. And
I appreciate it, Mark. Yeah. No, excellent points. I appreciate that.
I'd be happy to speak to the landscape buffer if you'd like me to.
Oh, sure.
So we do this all the time. Whenever there's some kind of a sensitivity in the township, there's always what they call subsoil or fill dirt. Whenever you balance a property, you always have an excess of dirt. What we currently do with most of the developments, and you've seen them, they'll build a big berm and then they'll put landscape plantings on the berm. Beautiful, and it's something that's nice, and it provides privacy for the future homeowners in the townhouses. But in this particular case, it can serve a dual purpose by not necessarily ruining view shed from the Spackman.
Thank you for that explanation. And we had one other comment, public comment. Welcome, Leisha.
Hi, can you guys hear me, guys and girls? How are you?
Yes. Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
Are you all dressed up? Are you all dressed up for Halloween?
Not tonight. This year's been very different, but it's good to see everybody.
Thank you. Go ahead. What do you
Okay,
got?
great. So I partially agree with Mark DeYoung. I was going to say that I do think this is an interesting compromise to offer from the developer. So the one thing that I would love to see if something like this happens is to have these homes, of course, be limited in number, but also be considered to be in the time or the style of the Spackman Farm. Because I personally think we do want to keep our passion for that farm. To me, as a taxpayer, that is an important piece of land. But I think we can do both. I think we can keep our passion for the farm and also have a development that's moderate and has a look and feel, so that if you're looking out from the farm, it has a feeling that you're still back in time. And with the landscape buffering, it doesn't seem like a crazy idea to me. The other idea I thought of was, is there any other examples where you have a nice farm property like that, where some kind of a housing development exists in close proximity to it, so that you could see an example of how that really would play out? So those are my comments. I don't think it's crazy. I think we can accomplish both passion for the farm and a development that makes sense, that looks and feels in keeping with the period. Those are my
Perfect.
thoughts. So
Thank you, Leisha.
thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I can speak to that in a project that we're currently doing in Upper Euclid Township. It's a daycare center, and it's in the historic district of Upper Euclid, in the kind of like the town of Eagle. We were asked by the township to do some exterior modifications on the building. Miss Camp is the solicitor over there, so she can attest to that. And we have agreed to do that to try to keep that village feel, the more historic feel. That's something that
Yes.
I'd be glad to do.
Mhm.
I'd be glad to offer that as well.
Yes. Am I still on? I love
Yes,
that
you are.
idea.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. And it all kind of goes together, right? So that's my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alicia.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Any other comments? All right, you need an answer hopefully by next month?
If I could, only because obviously the other permits are sunsetting and I have to apply for the extension. I prefer not to. And I know a lot of folks in the township would prefer me not to as well.
Yeah.
So,
That's what we're struggling with.
yeah.
So,
And again, the number of 108, we can work that number down to something that's suitable for both parties, township and myself as a developer. It's just a matter of dollars and cents at the end of the day. I mean, you can't whittle it down to where it's not going to be able to provide the services.
the property now on Bondsville Road, you have stormwater systems already in place?
Yes, there is
Okay.
currently a basin in the back, but that can be easily removed. It currently meets your township ordinances for stormwater.
Mhm.
But again, if I would recommend, and again, it's whatever you folks would like to do. But we could reforest that. I've done that a million times as well, where there's a property that there was a proposed building or there was an old building and they got rid of the building and they didn't know what to do with the property and the township owned it. And then they just reforested it, turned it back into what it was. Or you can make it into a small pocket park or whatever you think.
So it leads into our property behind that
does,
section. It leads
indeed.
all the way back to the other side of Geo
I believe you
Carlson.
have 28 acres.
We have 2 parcels back there, 28, and I believe a larger 30 some. So it's significant property in the back by Beaver Creek.
It would be a nice transition to do.
Okay. We're not promising anything, but we discuss it. Definitely have an answer for you next meeting. Is that fair?
When is the next meeting again? Just like.
No, it's only one
Okay.
in November.
Yeah, just one in November. So November 12th.
I mean, providing them on.
Okay. Yeah. And and I know Don will be speaking with you.
Yeah, exactly.
During
And
the
again,
month.
I understand this is not something that's going to happen. I was really encouraged when you were making all these 5-0 votes. I thought this
we were on a roll.
good stuff. I was going to get the mower out of the deal and everything.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Night.
Next on the agenda, Chester County Intermediate Unit update.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. The last item I have for discussion this evening is a update and recent inquiry from the Chester County Intermediate Unit. As we've discussed in meetings previously, there have been a number of service calls over at the Intermediate Unit. As you can see from the graph, that the number of calls the Callan Township Police Department has increased over the years, about the 10-year period. We've had several meetings with the IU. I'd say they've been productive and to a degree and cooperative. We obviously all want to come to the same outcome, which is public safety. And I know that the chief can, of course, speak to the nature of some of these calls in a bit more detail. But through the course of those discussions with the IU, a number of options were raised. One of which being a school resource officer. I believe we discussed this at a previous meeting as well. A school resource officer would be a Callan Township police officer that would be more or less assigned to the facilities of the Chester County IU. It is a unique position. Other school districts and other townships do have school resource officers. It is a combination of a police officer and almost a guidance counselor. So it does take a unique personality. During some of the conversations, we did discuss some of the challenges that just come with First Class Township in hiring. We would obviously need to go through the Civil Service Commission, and there's a ranking criteria that we must abide by when making those hiring decisions. So that was a challenge, and also the timeline as far as when could this be in place. Obviously, with testing and getting all the public requirements, we would not be looking at getting any sort of programming change in the police department service during this school year. And we have, and of course, the chief can add to this in a moment, but the number of service calls over to the IU have increased compared to this point last year. So it is a concern. It's one that we, of course, again, with the IU we're on the same page in that we want to protect the community, want to protect the students, want to protect staff. And I believe we do have a representative from the IU here this evening, in case there's any questions, if you want to comment. But before I just, if Chief, is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
Evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
So the graph that Don is alluding to, if you look at the left side, it's the total number of service calls during the school year, and numbers across the bottom start at 2014 and go through May of 2024. So we've gone from approximately 150 service calls during the 2014-2015 school year to over 400 last year. And that represents a little over a 200% increase in the past 10 years. I've raised this concern with CCIU leadership 10 years ago, but never, get to the numbers. At the time, I was more focused on the impact on police services, especially if the numbers continued to increase, and they have. But given the dramatic escalation in response numbers and the degree of behavioral health and mental health issues that we're seeing, the concern has shifted more to the potential impact on the safety of the community and less so on the increasing demand on the police department.
Chief, people are saying that you sound like you're underwater. Can you get more on your microphone?
Different mic?
I think that.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. Let me know if it's any better or any worse.
Yeah,
and I'll try to get a little closer to the microphone. See if that helps any.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had that issue last time.
Mm-hmm.
So as I've stated on the record in previous meetings, elopements have resulted in stoppage of traffic on Lincoln Highway, stoppage of train service, disruption to local businesses, students running through neighborhood properties. Most elopements are located and returned quickly and safely, but some have taken hours to locate and required a large number of police resources and personnel. Elopements that involve students with severe behavioral and mental health issues are a greater risk to themselves and the community. To give you an idea of the level of behavioral and mental health issues that we're seeing, I'll provide just a few examples, and they're recent examples. A male student intentionally kicked a female teacher repeatedly in the face, causing injury, climbed a tree, forced a tree branch down his throat, and stuffed leaves in his eyes. A male student destroyed a classroom during an outburst. Desks were flipped upside down and broken. Holes were punched in walls. Multiple computers were damaged, and a dry erase board was ripped off the wall. A female student became upset that she was being returned to the Learning Center and threw a rock through a window of the Options Plus building, and then began throwing rocks at a school bus. Incidents that involve students making death threats directed at the school or other students and staff require us to immediately notify police departments with jurisdiction where the student resides. In some cases in other counties, so that officers can visit the home to ensure the student doesn't have the weapons or the means to carry out the threat. Sometimes we receive cooperation from the parents or guardian, sometimes we don't. I could provide many more examples, but in the interest of time, I think you get the idea. We responded to a record number of service calls in the prior school year, 413 to be exact. And as Dawn alluded to, we've already exceeded the number through today, October 31st, compared to the same 2-month period a year ago. 94 last school year versus 114 already through today. So we're on pace to far exceed 413 from last year. Not including the intermediate unit, in 2023, we experienced a 17% increase in service calls from the prior year, 2022. This year, we're up another 10 to 13%, so that's nearly a 30% increase in just 2 years. The additional officers that the township has invested in are to keep up with the increased demand due to our own population growth. So as I alluded to a minute ago, 500 service calls at the intermediate unit, which is where we're headed, on top of an increase in service calls in general throughout the township, is unsustainable, and it impacts our ability to focus on our own residents and proactive policing to address increases in population, traffic volume, traffic crashes, and crime. The FBI just revised their crime data from down 2% to up 4%, which is a 6% swing upward, and that's significant because we're seeing more crime coming west out of Philadelphia, and our community is not immune from that. I'm glad to see Dr. Levy here. Siobhan wasn't with the intermediate unit when I began raising these concerns 10 years ago, but since she's been there, we've had a great partnership. And like all of the CCIU staff and leadership, we share the same focus, and that is keeping students and staff safe. But we've reached an inflection point. The dramatic escalation in service calls advances the unsustainable demand on our department. But the greater concern, again, now is the potential for the level of violence to spill out into the community. Students who elope and are in distress are a greater risk to themselves and others. Nearly 25% of our service calls are elopements, and 25% of 400 or 500 calls is a significant number. The school resource officer concept, which would involve placing Callan officers in the intermediate unit facilities in the township, has been suggested by the CCIU in recent meetings as a means of addressing the problem. But as I pointed out, the intermediate unit is not a traditional educational environment, and I can't say with any certainty that a school resource officer or multiple resource officers will fix the problem or even mitigate it. It could actually have the opposite effect and increase the number of calls. Inevitably, it will also increase supervisory and administrative time to conduct use of force investigations and to investigate complaints against officers. Our mere presence while on location sometimes agitates students that aren't even involved for the reason we're there. And that's counterproductive to have a uniformed officer permanently assigned. Currently, we don't have the staff to entertain the idea of a school resource officer program, even if we're in a traditional school environment. And given the unique challenges that the intermediate unit presents, I can't give you a guesstimate of how many resource officers we would need. And I wouldn't even consider placing an officer there who had any less than at least 5 years of full-time police experience. Compounding that is the way that our current civil service hiring process works. Even if a viable candidate for an SRO position applied, the rules, as written, don't allow us to give preference to applicants with police experience. That's why the majority of our recent hires have been applicants that we've sponsored to attend police academies. Any questions?
Just concerns.
And the needs, I think Don spelled it out and you did as well. I mean, this is not a job for a regular police officer. This is someone who needs really special skills, and you would need with those kind of numbers, 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't even, it would be unfair, to you,
yeah,
to the intermediate unit for me even to take a guess on the number we would need.
yeah,
And again,
Yeah.
they get time off, vacation, sick time.
yeah.
Even with one, you know, they wouldn't be there every day. And I know we couldn't do it with one. I don't know how many it would take. It's one of those propositions where we wouldn't know until we were actually there.
Mhm.
Just Tom.
And we have not had those conversations. This was a request from the Chester County IU to see if it's a viable option. So we haven't explored what that figure would be, what the number would be, what the specifics of. So really, before we move forward with any of those conversations, we felt it best to bring it to the board, of course, and to have a public discussion regarding this would be a change in how the department operates. So if we would even consider moving forward with that, we of course would want the board to be aware that these conversations were occurring before even continuing that discussion. But we have not engaged in what that would look like, the numbers would be, what the cost would be. It's very preliminary. So it would take a degree of time in order to implement any sort of program. We would need to have some detailed conversations. All that would have to be brought back before the board and the public for consideration. And so it would take a significant degree of work effort, resources, and time in order to implement this policy. But before we even started, wanted to make sure we brought it to the public, and throughout that process, we'd of course keep the board notified every step of the way, so that both obviously the commissioners, the public taxpayers would be aware of what it's looking like moving forward.
Yes, I just wanted to add too, because many of those students aren't even like residents, you know, of our township, or many are coming outside of the county and
County,
you know,
yeah.
and they're coming from all over the place.
expensive.
You know, us to modify our budgets, or the school district to modify a budget for these kids that are coming from all over the place, different counties, you know, that I think each county ought to be accountable, you know, for a percentage, you know, of that obligation and responsibility, because these kids are young, but a lot of them are coming with criminal backgrounds and, you know, a lot of behaviors beyond the scope of a school teacher that can even handle.
I guess my question would be, after the chief gave some examples, is why does the IU continue to burden our taxpayers more than others? And why does it seem that the IU doesn't seem to take the safety of its other students and teachers into account? It seems like, you know, these people go in every day to teach and basically put their lives on the line. And it doesn't seem like the IU cares much about the people that work there or the other students there.
Dr. Levy, did you want to make a comment? Thank you.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Siobhan Levy. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Student Services for the Chester County IU. And to thank you for having me here tonight. I would like to start by thanking Chief and Steve, because they are just a absolute first-class group of officers, the way that they support our students, our teachers, and our administrators. So I think it's really important for us as the IU to come here and say that, because I've worked in different school districts, and I have the best police force I've ever work with. So, you know, Mr. Young, to answer your question, you know, my heart is in the world of special education, and one area of disability in the IDEA is students with emotional disturbances. So some of the actions that you've described are concerning, but that's why we do the work that we do, because of the students that, you know, desperately need our help to get their lives on track. There are, you know, within the Learning Center building, which is some of the behaviors that Chief Weiss described, that is a small percentage of the students that are demonstrating that behavior. We have many students who, for many of them, this is the end of the road for education for them. That if we are able to help them figure out how to gain skills, both in terms of social emotional skills, academic skills such as literacy and math, as well as transition skills within the CT programming, it changes the whole course of their life and their families' lives. So these examples are concerning, and that is often we see behaviors like that when students first enter our program, but through a very surgical and precise system of positive behavior support systems, mental health counseling, we are able to move them off the radar of those behaviors. So it's important for us to just share that with you, that this is where some of our students start when they enter the program, but it's not where they end. And our program is known regionally throughout the state, throughout the country for the work that we do with students. One key point to share is that 24% of the students at the Coatesville campus are Coatesville area school district students. So we do have students that come from other areas and other districts, but we have a good portion that are located and rooted right in this. So those are just some things to share. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So 500 calls, that's calls for service. That's not a small portion of the population. That's a lot of calls. We don't get nearly that from the Coatesville High School campus. And even when the Coatesville High School campus was much larger than it is now, we didn't get that kind of volume of calls. So I kind of disagree with you there. And the other thing is, this is the Chester County Intermediate Unit. You know, if there's kids from other counties that are coming and causing harm to our community, then I disagree that they should be there. Let those intermediate units take care of those kids. You know, this is for Chester County. This is Chester County taxpayers. This is Cowan Township taxpayers, and we have a duty to represent the people who live here, as well as spend their money frugally. And when we're expected to continue to put out more and more police officer time, that we can't do that. And as you heard the chief say, that means that we're not doing traffic stops. That means we're not doing traffic enforcement. The things that the residents of this township ask us to do, we can't do because we're spending time at the CCIU or looking for your students somewhere in our township. So that's the end of my comments.
It would be okay to add just one comment to that, or just one clarification. Students are placed in our program because their home school districts are unable to provide them with special education supports to be successful. So the 24% that are coming from the Coatesville area school district, we are working and supporting some of their most challenging students. So just to clarify how students are placed in our program, and while some calls may be decreasing in other areas of the township, it's probably important to just note that students that we get the pleasure to serve from the Coatesville area school district are some of their students that are the most significant.
How many students do you have?
At the Learning Center, we have 177. At the CDC, the Child and Career Development Center, further down Veterans Drive, we have 360.
Excuse me,
Sorry, let me just finish my question. And most of the calls are coming from the 177 or the 360?
We track the call data as well. Starting this year, 36 are from the Child and Career Development Center and 57 are from the Learning Center. Encumbered in those numbers, though, it's also important to note that we support students with medical fragility. So some of our calls are also connected to Childline calls, which is a regulation we follow. So some of the calls are, they may feel redundant if we're calling Childline as well as the local police department, but that is what we've been directed to do in terms of the regulations that govern that process. And medical emergencies also spawn calls that come up on your logs as well.
Depending on the number of children that you have in the school, and since they come from many different counties, is that correct? That they're not all just from Chester County. Okay. Is there a possibility of creating a group separate to handle this particular problem among the police? I don't know how it could be done, but I'm saying it's like, depending on the percentage of people you have from a particular county, you would say you would need so many police officers from that county to help this particular project. Is that possible?
It's something that we could certainly explore at the IU with our team. I think our first being a partner here to Callan Township, our first as we this summer we underwent a safety and security audit. One of the recommendations from that audit was the request for officers. So we have sort of an action plan that we're working through. I mean, it really is, it's important to share that we are looking to increase our supports at the campus in terms of this area. And we're exploring the options here tonight and have been ongoing with Chief Weiss and the team here. So I think we're going through different options, but that's something that I can take back to the team to consider.
Is there any revenue that would
Thank you.
come along with that school resource officer to pay for it?
Yes.
And were you talking supporting 10 officers, or are we talking supporting one single officer?
I think that's something in terms of the number, that would be something we could discuss with our team,
Right.
but I would be able to give a clear and final answer on that.
I would say it would probably be many counties, depending on how many children are in the school and the grades and things like that. So it would be like a group that would work together separate. And it would be great if you could get funding for it, aside from the people who send their children to the school.
I'll be happy. It's a good
Okay.
suggestion. Well, I will definitely take that back to our team.
Chief,
That's just a
you wanna
thought.
jump in there, Chief?
Thank you. I'm sorry.
So there's a law known as the Municipal Police Jurisdiction Act. If the incident occurs in Callan Township, we're obligated to investigate it. That doesn't prohibit us from allowing other departments to assist in the township or us assisting other departments in their respective municipalities. But as far as uniform crime reporting goes and general response to 911 calls or non-emergency calls that go to county dispatch, we're the department that they're going to dispatch. As I mentioned, there's situations where we have to contact departments in other counties because we need to send them to the home to check on a variety of things. But when the incident occurs here in Callan Township, we're under obligation to investigate it.
I just wanted to say, and during my time at the township, we have had several meetings, both at the Coatesville campus and the township building at Boot Road, with various levels of leadership up at the IU. There have been efforts made based on the concerns that we've raised and identified. I know initially there was a request to put some locking mechanisms in order to secure the building to reduce the number of elopements. But if we're looking at it from a code perspective, it would have moved from educational to institutional, which was a problem. And I think at one of the meetings it was mentioned that Department of Ed is more or less incentivizing having students with behavior and mental health issues to be in an educational setting, driving towards that rather than an institutional type setting. So that was raised as a concern. But there have been many efforts made to try to get in front of this problem and then work together successfully. I know over the summer we did send correspondence to the IU identifying prior to the school year and hoping to have a resolution. And we are still, of course, working on it. So it's been an ongoing issue.
And I did see,
Just to follow up on a point that Commissioner Young made earlier, 413 incidents last year at the intermediate unit compared to 10 at Coatesville schools. And I would venture to say the student population at the high school and the intermediate school is significantly larger. But again, we're dealing with a completely different, more adverse student body with completely different issues.
agreed. I would be interested, you had mentioned that some of the children, I guess the behavior is corrected. If you have information on that, how long it would normally take
too. I mean, we have a very precise system of positive behavior intervention within both of the campuses, the CDC and the Learning Center, and we track by student their number of incidents from when they enter the program through their entire tenure. And by and large, an overwhelming percentage of our students move into the program with very severe behaviors, and then they move into a state of more functional behavior because of the interventions of our special education teachers, our therapists, who work very hard to support the students and really truly produce incredible outcomes. We would, as the intermediate unit, we are always welcome to have you come down and tour the programs and the campuses and meet our students, our incredible faculty, our incredible therapists. So if that's something the board or the team here is interested in, I think it would be very, helpful just to give more context as we, consider this collaborative effort.
Thank you. And I know we had a couple hands raised. Public comment here. Yes, Tom, welcome. You had a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear
Okay.
us?
Actually, my better half has a question.
Okay.
Hi, this is Chris Parr from 582 Lloyd Avenue. This
Welcome,
is
Chris.
very high. I'm very concerned over this. I have to agree with everything Commissioner Young said. I think this is more than just behavioral problems. I'm wondering, I have two questions. These children, are they under medication, and is there a nurse in the facility to be watching this? And if their behavior is this bad, why are they in this facility? And when they do have a behavioral outburst where the police have to go running after them, are they put back into the setting immediately? Are they taken out? I would be interested to know that, but these numbers are horrific. Thank you.
Dr. Levy? Yes, thank you, Chris.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer some of those. Thank you, Mrs. Parr and Mr. Parr. So yes, we do have nursing site on staff at all of the buildings on the campus. They are managing all of the medical needs of the students, which would include medication, and they do oversee that very closely. We also have students that have tube feedings and have, significant medical care, and we have an incredible team that manages that process. Students are placed with us because of the needs that they are exhibiting in terms of special education. So their IDEA process in terms of special education and the IEP team determine the most appropriate placement for the student. And, we really consider ourselves to be able to serve them and help them grow in their skills.
To her point, though, do you immediately return them to the school setting, or are they taken out of the school setting?
That is not a cut and dry answer. It really would depend on the nature of the incident and whether or not the incident in question is a manifestation of the child's disability, which would then determine next steps in terms of any disciplinary process, therapeutic process, et cetera. So that really does depend on the situation and the student's individual needs.
Another hand raised. Yes, Mark, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me this time?
Yes. Yes, Mark, go ahead.
Little technical difficulties last time. Is this the Chester County Intermediate Unit down on Boot Road, or does this include Collegium?
This is the one that used to be the Votech Center, Mark.
Okay.
It's right next. It's on the Coatesville School District campus.
Okay. I better understand it. Thank you for explaining that.
Thank you, Mark. Oh. Welcome, Noel.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to echo what all has been said. And I couldn't agree more with Mr. Young because, like him, I've sat through countless meetings of hearing this and to use the word horrific, that's spot on. And I do respect what I'm hearing about, how they improve, how the students improve and all of that. But something I learned tonight, I didn't realize, the degree of danger. I mean, I had some idea, but hearing about this teacher, that's very upsetting to me. And quite frankly, I'm just very, very, very it's just, I know there's a process, but when I'm looking at this 2014, I mean, come on, we're 10 years and look at how this has gone up. So I do hope that, we can come to some solution here, because it is not fair for our police officers, and it's certainly not fair for our residents and, us, our tax dollars. So thank you very much for letting me offer my couple words.
Thank you, Noel. Anyone else online?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that, it spiked and then it came down during COVID when
Nobody was there.
nobody was there, and then shot back up again. And I'm a big believer in behavioral health modification and making sure that students are given an opportunity. Certainly had my share of issues. Still do. It's something I just can't see how we can sustain this financially. The township. I'm just running my mouth.
Oh, we have one more. Welcome, Adam.
Good evening, Adam Thomas, 310 Carlin Court. Quick question following up on Mark's comments and Noel's comments. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of the spike, it seems to be that in 2014, it was at a stable line. And I know the chief had said that that's when they started tracking, but then there was, an upward shift. COVID hit, and then we saw the spike downward. But then what has happened from 2014 forward to drive this upward? Because, the number of calls that we're hearing from this organization versus the next door neighbor, if this was, obviously, are we seeing a different type of clientele of, obviously special needs? But if this is becoming a situation where, as the chief has predicted, this is going to continue forward, not only is it a danger to our community, but it's also a danger that people are working there as well, trying to help these students. So what has caused that significant upward spike in calls over the last 10 years?
Good question, Adam. Thank you. Libby.
That is difficult to answer, right? We have had longstanding programs on the campuses. I will, in general, something that is universal in the country is the mental health crisis following the pandemic. So I think that is one area that can be attributed to the increased behavior that we are seeing with our students who not only are they just, they're human beings, but they're also human beings with a disability, and their response and reaction to stress of a global pandemic was even more pronounced than perhaps their peers, their general education peers. But it is difficult for me to really give a hard and fast answer. So I don't mean to avoid it. That's my my take on that.
And that makes perfect sense. I mean, the crisis got much worse post-COVID.
Well, not to belabor it, but you are in talks with our township manager, our police chief. Let's continue that. If we can't come up with a solution, either on your end or our end, or a little bit of a mutual. But everyone needs to be protected, children as well as our residents. So I think we're just trying to make sure everything is.
And I do agree. We all have the same end goal in mind to, keep the students, the community, everyone in the area safe. So we are on the same page there, and everyone here really is a pleasure to work with. So I'm sure if we keep on that path, we'll come up with a solution that works.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Next on the agenda, board minutes to approve October 10th. Commissioners, any changes, corrections? If not, entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Evans. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved 5-0. Planning Commission minutes to acknowledge for September 17th. Entertain a motion to acknowledge. So moved. Moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Young. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. And the October 7th minutes for the Planning Commission.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Finance Department.
Good
Lisa,
evening.
welcome.
So we're rounding out the third quarter at about 95.5% of our taxes collected. Our interest earnings are through the third quarter as well, and we stand at about 329,000. I do expect that to come in at the end of the year, last quarter, at around 415,000 for interest earned. Our state and local grants did really well this year and assisted with a lot of our projects, which will help the township moving forward with our stormwater projects to develop a steady maintenance program that hopefully will mirror the success of the road resurfacing program. Expenses are at about 79% expended through 3 quarters and should come in right around what we budgeted for 2024. Fire and EMS revenue is also coming in on target, and the fourth quarter expenses should round out where they were budgeted and as expected, as reality sets in with the hiring phase, as you saw here earlier today. So that's an exciting thing to look forward to the end of the year and the beginning of next year. Our 2019 note has about 8 years left. We locked in at 1.9%. I don't think there's any need to look at that as an optional redemption. Budget meetings continue, as you know, and we should be probably posting the first draft the end of next week, depending on how everything goes, the beginning of the week. And that'll be up again for viewing here in the township building and as well as the website. And of course, as always, every day I get questions on expenditures and revenues from our residents. So we welcome that. The budget presentation will be at the Tuesday, November 12th meeting. And that's all I have for my report.
Are you going to do an excellent PowerPoint presentation again, or you leave? Okay,
Try a little something different, but
okay. Remember last year was your first time around, and
it was.
Yes, it looked good.
Yes. Yeah. I set the bar high, didn't I? Thank you.
Nice. Okay. And checks. We have a check run 52,883 to 52,985, and a manual check of number 308. Commissioners, any comments, questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved and
Second.
second. Moved by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Tindaro. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Checks have been approved. The meat and potatoes time. Monthly directors reports. We'll start off with Ray, Building and Life Safety.
Thank you, commissioners. Just, you should have my report just real quick, a couple highlights. Under code enforcement, I had, I believe I put in last month, we were noticing we were starting to get you know, what I would call a good bit of blight along Lincoln Highway, especially at some repair garages. You know, you always expect repair garages to have vehicles in different phases of repair, obviously, right? What we were noticing is there were vehicles with grass growing up through them and starting to get out of control. So we decided to take a phased approach at that to try to be cooperative with a lot of these business partners. So we sent a letter out, a general letter, and said, hey, our zoning ordinance says that you can only have a vehicle on site for 10 days that's in a state of disrepair. Obviously, every situation is different, and we'll certainly work with you, but we're giving you advance notice. Starting January 1, we're going to start actively enforcing that zoning ordinance. So, you know, please, here's a heads up. We did get a couple phone calls. Obviously, we spoke to those business owners and explained, listen, you know, you're a towing company. Obviously, you got to have cars. They got to be secured. We get that. That's no problem. Hey, you might have a vehicle, it gets work, and then they want more work and they can't pay for 2 weeks. We said, listen, we will continue to work with you. We're just talking about these vehicles that are clearly abandoned. And there even those, there may be a process they have to go through to address those. We'll be very cooperative, but it's really getting out of hand. So we're going to try to address that starting in January. The only other thing to really mention is the Hills at Thorndale Woods. Most of their infrastructure is actually in. Most of the roads are paved, fire hydrants are in, curbing's in, and they are actually starting to pull building permits. I had a meeting with Ryan Holmes, who's the builder, yesterday, and they look to build their first, I think it's a 4 or 5 pack model townhome building and a single family dwelling starting probably in December.
Right.
Taking on the blight issues. I mean, really.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium that we can find to work with the businesses and at the same time say, hey, it's time to clean that up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Community enhancement, making us look good. Abby, what do you got?
So you can see the communications numbers, social media, etc. And of special note, September was Community Day. And despite the weather, it went pretty well. So we had a good turnout. I appreciate all of the many volunteers and staff who helped to make it possible. This was the highest, I don't want to say grossing, but we fundraised the most, amount of money this year, and by far exceeded our expectations. We turned around and spent it all, so we were able to add some new elements, which was fun. And I think we've got some good feedback for going forward next year, but I just wanted to thank everybody for that. The other thing I wanted to mention, we talked, I believe at the last meeting or the meeting before, about the screen gauge that we wanted to put in with the help of USGS in Lloyd Park. So that has been done and it looks terrific and it's already online. So I'm going to add to the website the link where people can go and watch the water. It hasn't done much yet. It's very low, but we are starting to accumulate data on that. So eventually we'll have, I think, a pretty valuable resource. And it looks cool. So that's fun. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight this fun visit that we had with the Chesapeake Bay landscape professionals. And we keep being the site for these stormwater BNP trainings and meetings. This one was a training. It was terrific. It involved 2 online sessions in previous weeks, and it was for master watershed stewards all around the state. And I think there were about 100 people that took the online training. In the online training, everybody was looking at our township campus online and on Chesco Views and designing new stormwater BMPs for us. So that was fun. And then in person, those that could come did. And we had a great training with an educator from down in Virginia who came up for it. Like, it was kind of a big deal. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. It was fun. We got to give a tour of all of our BMPs, and then the group measured out and did drawings of like 10 new B&Bs we can add around the township building. So looking forward to maybe making some of those projects happen. And that's it for me.
It was exciting. Thank you, Abby. All right, Ingleside Golf Course, Nicole,
Yay.
come on down.
Thank you again for the approval of the mower. Gonna be great. September was a good month compared to last year. I think it's the first month of the year that we beat last year. So that's good. So things have kind of turned. I think there was a lag in our reputation recovering, and it might have taken all the way till now. But because October's been phenomenal as well. But September was great. We had over 400 more golfers than we had last year. The weather was okay. Get a little bit of rain after a drought. Now we're back in a drought. No, it was a good month. The fall clinic was in full swing. So the kids were out there, about 60 kids. It gets a little chaotic, but we had a ton of fun. They have one more week left. We've already started planning for the spring clinic, and we'll have them out here twice a year. Speaking of planning for clinics and golf outings and stuff, we have hired I created a new position at the club. It's focused on golf operations. It's focused on golf events, specifically golf involved events, summer camps, youth clinics, golf outings, those types of things. That entirely frees me up to focus on the community type events and to rebuild the golf course itself. So we're really excited about our new addition. Another update, Mike Fraggle is back to work. Super excited about that.
So good to hear that.
Yeah, he hit the ground running. He's out there chugging along. I've had to remind him about every hour to take it easy.
Take a break.
Can't keep him down.
He just works hard. So, but no, he's out there doing his thing. And yeah, we got our new roof on our clubhouse in September.
Great.
So that's nice. I don't have a puddle of water in my office. I wouldn't know though, because it hasn't rained in 30 days.
True.
So the new roof is on. Excited about that. And that's about it. Not much else is going on in September. We're just really happy with the turnout in golf. Yeah, 2,100 rounds of golf in September. So that's a good number for our club and something to build on.
How was last weekend?
Last weekend?
Yeah.
What happened last weekend?
I'm just, yeah. How was the turnout? We still had a nice cool weather.
With
beautiful
the weather this month in October, the weekends have been out of this world. Yeah, we're having better weekends than we did in May, in the middle of October. So it's exciting times. It seems to have really turned around. It just lagged a little into the end of this year. And we're going to take this momentum and take it into next year and have a great year.
Perfect. Looking forward to that.
Sure.
Thank you, Nicole.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, nice. Minquist Fire. How are you doing?
Hi.
Good.
Yes.
Any coffee out there?
Yeah.
So our report was included, I believe, in your packets. Just a little bit of a note there. Been holding steady over 500 for the last, since May. So call volumes spiking, and they've actually just stayed up there. If you average all of them together, we should be about 462. Put it in perspective, in September we're at 510. So just above average monthly basis. Something of importance to note is October is Sudden Cardiac Arrest Month. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's a medical emergency that occurs when the heart suddenly stops beating.
It can happen anywhere and anytime, and it can be fatal if immediate medical attention is provided. Sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death in the U.S., taking the lives of more than 356,000 people each year, including more than 23,000 youth under the age of 18. So just trying to raise some awareness for that. Some ways that anybody here can get help, get trained in CPR, and know where your closest AED is. Walk in the door, there's one out in the hall, in the lobby there. It's great. And just knowing how to use it. So we offer CPR classes. You can register for them. We'll get you the email for that. But other than that, that's pretty much it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, police chief.
Chief.
Hello again.
For you.
All right. No staff milestones to report in September. Officer Norwood was deployed overseas with the National Guard. That deployment could last up to 18 months. Good news, in the last 12 months, we've been the recipient of about $251,000 in grants.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. I'd be thankful of that.
With the manager's help, we're in the process of applying for a grant to replace all of our body worn and in-car cameras. They're all out of warranty, and we're starting to experience some equipment failures. I'm also going to be applying for another LSA grant for 2 electric police vehicles.
Electric.
Chevrolet now makes a fully electric police-equipped Blazer 500 horsepower. They're nice. So,
Where do you charge them?
well, we're going to have part of the grant. That's a
I
good
was going to
question.
say, you're going to
Part of the grant is going to include installation of
okay.
charging stations.
And I know, because otherwise, if you're driving and
Yeah.
and it goes out, you're stuck.
Yeah, we don't want the battery to die.
No, I don't want that either.
So we all know election day is coming up next Tuesday. Director Stackhouse and I are going to put a IEP incident action plan together. If you've been watching the news, there have been issues in Montgomery and is it Bucks or Berks?
Yeah.
Bucks. No issues so far in Chester County.
Good.
We've had meetings already with the district attorney's office. Our officers have been trained on their roles and responsibilities should there be an incident at a polling station. And on election day into the evening, at the 911 center, there's going to be a Chester County detective and an assistant district attorney on site there in the event we run into any problems and need a quick answer. Bottom line is, unless there's an emergency at the polling station, we have to stay, I think, is it 100 or 150 feet away unless we're called there by the election judge, the election official. So, hopefully there'll be no issues, but if there are, we'll be prepared. That's all I have. I took up enough of your time.
Well,
You
thank
have any
you.
questions?
Thank you very much.
Well, today is the last day of October, so I'll be back to the normal badge tomorrow. But yeah, it was nice. Like I said, the association thought of it. They paid for the badges, and it's a nice way to remind our citizens about breast cancer awareness.
Thank you.
Yep.
I thought your blue beard would be coming in a little bit
Well, I
stronger.
started full, went to this, went to nothing, back to this. It's probably going to be back to nothing by Monday because it's irritating.
All right, Public Works, Johnny. What's exciting that's happening in our township?
As far as emergency, just one call out. Not too much going on in that department. Just routine maintenance around the facilities, taking care of work orders, resident work, trying to keep the residents happy. Did some patching work up on Barley Sheep Hill, and did some inlet work for the road program up on Allison Drive, Morgan Drive up there. So, you know, got the guys out cleaning roadsides and mowing, just trying to get ready for the winter season, fall season. That's for us.
All right.
A great job.
Always see the
you.
guys out there. Always.
Try to keep them moving.
All right. Thorndale Fire Company, Patrick.
Try and keep this as brief as possible. Couple, I'll start with, I'll say the negatives that we've encountered this month or September. We had one incident where we had large diameter hose laid out in the street, and a resident just wanted to get home, was asked about it, and they just said, oh, well, we're just trying to get home. Luckily, Chief Elisha's staff were right there and had a chat and basically the importance of why we shouldn't run over the hose. Luckily, it was not full of water. I believe there was a chief officer that was just killed, I think in Connecticut. That hose had ruptured after being run over and killed. So we're trying to avoid that. We understand everybody wants to get home. We don't want to be blocking, but we do it for a reason. And then we've had several instances involving with our fire police where residents have almost been screaming at the top of their lungs that they just want to get home. And unfortunately, like I said, luckily Count Police has been there. So thank you very much. But they said, oh, I don't feel like waiting for you to get out of your vehicle or something like that. I need to get home. Unfortunately, like I said, we don't want to close the road if we don't have to, but it's to the point now we're doing it for our safety and everybody's safety.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's not a very well liked thing, but we've encountered that a lot lately. On the happy news and positive side, we were awarded a grant through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. 3 what's called Haas receivers that will go into some of our trucks, and basically when our lights are on and things like that, we'll send a digital alert to certain, I think it's all Chrysler models, Waze app, the Waze map app, and one other map, I think through, might have been Apple Maps or something. But basically trying to give a forewarning, hey, there's an emergency ahead. So as long as our lights are on, that alert will come up, and hopefully before you get up on the scene, you can plan a detour, but just trying to help some of that distracted driving. Although I know it's kind of, hey, let me throw an alert right up on your phone or something like that. But they're trying to do everything. So we were awarded 3 of those units to put in our apparatus. So I want to end on positive. But that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can't believe people would actually be yelling at our fire police, and they're there for our safety.
That just something I wanted to share. You know, I was reading an article today about road rage and the spike in road rage, and it was an article about it was in Texas where they're doing training with people who are picked up on road rage, and I just wanted to get home, but you're doing 90 and cutting people off. And everyone's emotions are really high right now. And there is an election next week. And the people who are working at the polls are all volunteers. Everyone just try to take a deep breath and just, we're all there to make our vote. We're all there. We all have the right to do that. And just everyone just be kind to each other, because and an announcement that I just learned, George Chambers let me know, the cash at the high school usually is count 2 and 4, and one is on the east end and one's on the west end. Well, they're all going to be at the same entrance this year. So it's, I think tensions could even be higher. So yeah, drive around a little.
Yeah, 2 and 4.
Boy. All right.
Be kind to each other.
Additional business. I know it's 10 o'clock, but you know,
Yeah,
I'm working off my coffee here, so
my coffee's gone.
no additional business.
And
Public comment.
closed.
Any public comment here in the township building? No hands raised. Public comment on Zoom.
Excellent.
Well, then the last thing to do.
Second.
I moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Go out and vote. Thank you so
Yes.
much, everyone.
Yes, yes.